Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to wherever you are in the world. My name is Andrew Glaser from the Glaser Tutoring Company, and today I would like to teach you how to find the x-intercepts of a cubic function. So the first thing is we have to understand what it means to basically be an x-intercept, right? So pretend you have some cubic function. Pretend it looks something like this, okay? And we understand that the x-axis is generally the horizontal axis and the y-axis is generally the vertical axis. You can also plug in f of x there for the y. It doesn't matter. But what it means to be an x-intercept is it means to be the coordinate values of these points where the function crosses or touches the x-axis. I mean, those are x-intercepts. I mean, to intercept something kind of means to, I don't know, intercept it, right? To cross it. I'm not really sure if that's a perfect definition there. But hey, this is math. So what I know is I know something about these 3 points. I know something unique about those 3 points. I know something that these 3 points have in common. Do you know what it is? What do you think those 3 points have in common? Well, they have you can think about it as 2 things they might have in common. They have unknown x values. I don't know what they are, right? I didn't give you any kind of core, values here, scale or anything. But what I do know, even without a scale, is I know that the y value, or the function's value here, will be equal to 0. That's basically by definition what it means to be an x-intercept. All right, it'll be the values of the function, it'll be the values of x that causes the function to obtain an overall value of 0. So in other words, that y, which is also basically the same thing as f of x, has to equal 0. Now this is fundamental. You got to understand this in order to understand how we're going to approach this problem. So instead of having f of x here, I'm actually going to now plug in a number of 0. Okay, that's why we plug in a 0 there. Okay, this is now x cubed minus 3x squared minus x plus 3. Okay, now I do not suppose that there's only one way to approach solving problems. All right, and this is my method that I like to choose. All right, there can be multiple ways, and different problems, how they present, would obviously require different methods of solution. Okay? Just like if you were a doctor and patients walk in the door and they have different symptoms, I hope to God that you won't treat them the exact same way. Right? So I'm going to treat this now as I would treat a cubic function. So how do we do that? So the general principle of trying to find factors, because that's the overall goal. I want to find some factors in here. The overall goal is to try to break this function up into 2 manageable pieces. And the way I like to think about it is I first focus on, if I could draw the parentheses, that would be nice. I first try to focus on the first 2 terms with the highest coefficients, and then I focus on the second 2 terms with the lowest coefficients. Okay, this is to the, no, did I say coefficient? I meant exponents. I think I said coefficients twice, which makes it doubly wrong. But I guess if it's a double negative, it's a positive. Hey, there you go. That's the way to look at it. Just tell it to your teacher or professor on the next test. Just say, hey, I got it wrong twice, so can you give me credit? Probably won't work out too well. Anyway, what I meant to say was you want to focus on the terms here of the highest power, okay? The 2 terms of the highest power, and then you focus on the 2 terms with the lowest power. Now, you might say, oh boy, all of a sudden this turned into be a multiplication. If I got 2 parentheses there, butted up against one another, that's a multiplication, and that's not what it is in here. It's like a subtraction or like an addition, and you would be right. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pull this apart, tease it a little bit, tease it out, and then just put a plus sign. So now I'm going to be adding a negative x to the problem, and isn't that the same thing as subtracting x, right? Adding a negative x is the same thing as subtracting a positive x. Adding a positive 3 is the same thing as adding a positive 3, right? So hopefully that makes sense. Now, what we want to do from here is we want to try to factor out certain terms. Okay, that's the goal. Now, I realize that in this parenthesis, I have a common x squared term in both. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull out that common x squared term. I'm going to leave the parentheses big. And what's left then is I have to divide this by basically x squared to find out that that is just going to be x minus. Then I have to divide this by the x squared, whatever term I pulled out. So that cancels. That just leaves me with a negative 3. Close parentheses. Okay, so I factored that. Same thing I would want to do here if possible. But there isn't really anything to factor per se. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy. There will be something to factor, but you might not recognize it at the moment. Okay, so let me just copy this, paste. All right, so there we go. Now the goal is, when I say I want to factor, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to find a factor in this term here and a factor in this term that are equal to one another. but I don't have one, right? I have an x minus 3 term. I have something close, right? I got x minus 3 here, and I have minus x plus 3. It's like, oh man, the signs are wrong. The signs are opposite. I can't do it. Well, you can. It just takes a little bit of ingenuity, right? You can do it. You can get this to somehow, miraculously almost, be x minus 3. Do you know how to do it? What you would do is you would have to pull out a -1 term from both. And you're like, wait, oh my God, this is positive 3. How am I going to pull out a -1? Watch. Ready? Watch. So we're going to pull out in here a -1 term, okay? Now, remember, what's negative x divided? So whatever you pull out, you're going to then divide each term by. So what's negative x divided by -1? Well, negative x divided by -1 is going to be a positive x, yes? Because negative divided by negative is a positive. Whenever you divide something by 1, it just doesn't do anything, right? So that becomes a positive x. And then what you're going to do, I'll erase that now. Then what you're going to do is do the same thought process, but with the 3. If I divide positive 3 by -1, what happens? Well, if it's a positive divided by negative, it becomes a negative. And 3 divided by 1 is just 3. OMG-ness, right? There it is. Here it is, okay? That's how we go about doing it. So I'm going to go up here now, just erase. And this is what I'm going to plug in. And just wrap your parentheses around it. Now what I have is I have these two terms with a common factor. And that's what I want. That's what I'm hunting for. Okay? That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to hunt for those common factors. Now, what I'm going to do is begin to factor these two out of this expression. Now, this is where it gets a little complicated, but hopefully this will make sense. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to copy this whole thing. All right? Can I copy it like that and then paste? Yes. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull these two terms out. Okay, this one here, and then this one here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to superimpose them on one another because I'm pulling them out in common. Okay? And then all you have to do now is just get rid of these parentheses, just delete them, and then make a new set of parentheses and just throw in what's ever left. Literally just put it in just like that. Okay? And now this is fully factored. I mean, that's all you got to do. That's factored. Okay? What I'm going to do now is I'm going to clean that up a little bit, all right, to make it look a little nicer. So I don't like this plus a minus. I'm just going to make that overall negative, right? Just minus a 1. Okay, so bring that over. And this, obviously, I'm just going to now clean up and just make it x minus 3, because that's all it should be, x minus 3. And now you can almost imagine if I took x minus 3 as a whole unit and I multiplied it by x squared, I would get, well, x squared multiplied by x minus 3. And if I took x minus 3 and multiplied it by the minus 1, I would imagine I would get minus 1 multiplied by x minus 3. Ha! See, they're the same. Now, the reason why I really like this setup right now is I have these two binomials right next to one another, and I know this, that if I could get this term in here to become 0 at some point in time, meaning if I could figure out what x has to be in here so that this term is 0, then I know for a shadow of, without a doubt, I don't know what I was going to say, but without a doubt, I know without a doubt, without a shadow of a doubt, right? Yeah, something like that. I know without any doubt that this whole side will become 0. Because I could care less what this number is. I don't care. This number could be 14,987,222.987 raised to the pi. I don't care. But whatever that number is, if you multiply by 0, it's still 0. Okay? So I know if this whole thing goes to 0, then this whole side goes to 0, and that would give me an x-intercept value. That would give me a value for x. So let me ask you a question without doing any more math. What's x? What's x got to be for this thing to go to 0? You're like, oh my God, this is so simple. 3, right? You're right. 3. That's an x-intercept. X equals 3. Now let me ask you this question. We can do it the other way as well. This term goes to 0, and I could care less what that is. So let me ask you, what can x be in order for this whole side to go to 0? What do you think? You're like, oh yeah, I could just think about it, right? This is x squared, 1. If I plug in a 1 there, 1 squared is 1. 1 minus 1 is 1. Oh, great. X is equal to 1. Dandy. You're right. Anything else? What about x being equal to minus 1? Right, if minus 1 gets plugged in here, minus 1 squared is going to be a positive 1, and positive 1 minus 1 is actually going to be 0. So you actually have another 1 in there, a negative 1. So you have 3 roots here, okay? That's how you would do it. You could just think about it at this point now, okay? You could just think about it. Now, I know that might not be sufficient because if you said to your teacher, you didn't show any more work here and you're like, I just thought about it. It just makes sense. Well, here comes a minus 28 on your exam, right? at least a minus 28. So we don't want you to lose 28 points. So what I'm going to do is show you now algebraically how to set this up. So the whole idea is that this has to equal 0, right? So this is x minus 3 somehow has to equal 0. And then I'm going to create two equations basically. X squared minus 1 has to equal 0. Now you can solve this in a couple of ways. Add 3 to both sides, okay? And x is going to be equal to positive 3. Oh my goodness, right? That's what we said intuitively. So there it is. Now how do you solve this one? Now you can look at this as a perfect square, right? You can factor it out of x plus 1 and then x minus 1 if you wanted. Or you can say, well, this kind of looks like a quadratic. It's also, it kind of looks like a quadratic. My a value is 1. I don't have a b because there is no x term. And my c is going to be a negative 1, right? So my a is 1. My b is actually 0 since it doesn't exist. And then the c term is going to be a negative 1. And what you can do is then just go to your calculator and you can use this program I created a video on, actually. So check the link in the description below. Check out that video, okay? It'll teach you how to program this function in your calculator. You don't have to really do any other quadratic functions again. You'll love it. It takes like 4 minutes. So plug in a is 1, b is 0, c is going to be negative 1. Hit enter. Bada bing, bada boom, right? There it is, 1 and negative 1. That's what we said it should have been logically. Okay, so the calculator is also telling you the same thing. Now, how do I solve this though? I mean, you could, like I said, you could find the binomials there, you could factor it, or what you can do is add 1 to both sides. You got x squared is equal to 1. Square root both sides and realize the square root of x is squared, is just x, and the square root of 1 is positive and minus, plus and minus 1. Because technically, if you plugged in a plus 1, as we mentioned before, right? Positive 1 squared would have been 1. Negative 1 squared would have also been 1. So we have actually two values, okay? So that is why we have that there, okay? So hopefully that kind of makes sense. Now, I was going to ask if you have any questions, but obviously, I mean, you could have questions, but I won't really be able to hear you. But you can always, if you have some questions, type them in the comments below. I'll do my best to try to get back to you. But in any case, so those would be the x-intercepts. If you wanted to now see it visually, all you got to do is plot this function, all right? Go to graph, right? Go to y equals, and now all you're going to do is x cubed, right? So go x raised to the 3, then hit the arrow over button, then minus 3x squared, right? Minus 3x squared, minus x, what? That's a 4. Minus what? Minus x, okay. And then plus 3. I got to double check this now. So x cubed minus 3x squared minus x, good. Now I'm going to go to zoom standard, okay? And here's my graph. Look at this thing. Beautiful, right? Beautiful. Here's the graph. Now tell me, remember we defined the locations where this graph crosses the x-axis to be the x-intercepts. So tell me, what do you think of those values? What's the value of that point? Well, it's going to be negative 1. Each one of those tick marks represents 1 unit. If you count to the left, it's negative, right? So negative 1, 0. What's the value of this? Well, that's positive 1, 0. What's the value of this? That's positive 3, 0. And wait a minute, negative 1, 1, and 3. Negative 1, 1, and 3. OMG-ness, right? That's it, okay? It's right there. It's beautiful, right? You can also do second table if you want. You can get your table of values here, okay? And what you realize here, and we defined now, that the x-intercepts are going to be the values of x where the function's value or the y value is equal to 0, right? So just look across to the corresponding x values to find those x-intercept values. Negative 1, 1, and 3. Negative 1, 1, and 3. Guys, thanks for tuning in. I really do hope this helped, all right? If you can, like, subscribe, tell your friends. We'd appreciate it so very much. We'd love to help you also with more problems, not only in mathematics, but if you're taking physics or chemistry or going to, keep us in mind, okay? We solve specific problems to try to help you through as best we possibly can. Now, remember, your exam, right, is always going to be problem-based, right? They're not going to sit there and say, okay, just recite back to me the slides that I had. They're going to ask you problems, right? They're going to ask you questions. That's what we focus on. All right, check out our channel. You can literally do, I'm almost fumbling over my words, you can literally do thousands upon thousands of practice problems in these subjects because we have thousands and thousands of video solutions for you. All right? We really want to help you through your course. Love to see you in another video or talk to you in another video or have a one-sided conversation in another video. Take care.